Hello everyone, good afternoon.
Halo Kak Lucy.
Halo, halo.
Hello, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Wishing you all enjoy a healthy and peaceful
Good
mind.
afternoon to
Friends, before we start, let's take a group photo first. So please turn on your camera, please.
with my background not change. Sorry.
POV, please capture. Okay, ready friends? Agustina, Budi, Titi, please open your camera. We're about to start. Okay, ready? POV team, please capture. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Again. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Friends, thank you for joining us via Zoom and YouTube streaming, POV community. It's a real joy to gather here in this important space for reflection and meaningful dialogue. So, friends, please feel free to comment in the chat box with your name and your country you are joining from. So, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Lucia Damanik, founder of POV or POV community, and I will be moderating our talk show session today. Today, Saturday, 9 August 2025, we gather here as we approach the 2025 International Day of the World's Indigenous People with theme World War III Simulation, Food, Land, and the Right to Life, a pathway to food sovereignty and resilience. Friends, please don't think this is a super heavy topic. We choose the theme World War III simulation because of what's happening in the world today, like nuclear threats, the Palestine-Israel war, and other global tensions. But I really want to imagine, to us to imagine if World War III simulation happened and the internet suddenly stopped. We couldn't shop at supermarket using QR codes, bank cards, or ATM. How could we survive? So that's why this talk show goals is to bring us back to the basic, protecting our food supply by growing our own organic food and learning from indigenous communities, their culture and their way of life. So I think they have the knowledge that we can help us more sustainability. So let me briefly introduce POV community. POV stands for Power of Voice, a grassroots community founded in early 2025, focusing on environmental sustainability, culturally grounded mental health, and the preservation of local values. So this talk show, organized by POV community based in Indonesia, and in collaboration with the IYTC International Youth Training Center in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and IMCS International Movement of Catholic Students. So this forum brings together diverse voices to envision food not as a tool of war, but as a foundation of justice, sovereignty, and healing in uncertain world. So I will tell about the event flow today. So friends, our program will run about 2 hours. So we will start by keynote speaker first. and then interactive panel discussion. And then after keynote speaker, we will open for Q&A, and then Q&A session first and interactive panel discussion, and then Q&A session 2, and then closing remarks from Titi Gale from AWTC as a manager AWTC. So please use use the Zoom chat box to send your questions or reflection. We also encourage you friends to turn on your camera as a form of collective participation. So I would like to introduce our speaker and keynote speaker. For the first keynote speaker, Dr. Teguh Santosa. Hello, sir. How can I call you, doctor or sir?
Just call my name Teguh. That's
Okay. How are you?
I'm doing fine, good here in
Okay,
Jakarta.
good. Thank you so much for being a keynote speaker today. So, Dr. Teguh Santosa is the founder of RMOL News Agency and co-founder and CEO of Farah.id, as well as a lecturer in the International Relations Department at UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta. He currently serves as a director of geopolitics at the Great Institute. He has spoken at the Human Rights Conference in Marrakesh, Morocco, and led the Indonesian journalist delegation to the same country. As an active participant at the Anti-Fascism Conference in Caracas, Venezuela, he brings us a unique blend of media leadership, academic insight, and geopolitical engagement to global discussion and conflict and survival. Thank you, Dr. Teguh Santosa. Thank you so much for being our keynote speaker for today. For the second panelist, please welcome Beverly Longit. Hello, Beverly. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon, good evening.
Am I correct? Am I correct? Pronounce your name? Sorry.
Yes. Beverly Longit.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for being our speaker today, Beverly Longit. Beverly is an indigenous Igorot of the Bontok Kankane people from the mountain province, Cordillera, Philippines. She is the national convener of Katribu, chairperson of the Asia Indigenous Peoples Pact AIPP, and co-convener of the International Indigenous People Movement for the Self-Determination and Liberation, IPMSDL. A lifelong activist, she has faced threats and harassment for her social and human rights work. Thank you so much, Beverly. Again, thank you, Beverly, for being with us today. For the next panelist, please welcome Rahel Jonsai. Rahel Jonsai. Hello, Ray.
Hi everyone. Hi.
Hello, Ray. How are you? Oh, yeah, bad connection, I think. I think Ray. Hello, Ray. Do you still with us? Okay, I will read the short profile of Ray. Ray is a climate justice activist and the national coordinator of Youth Advocates for Climate Action Philippines, YCAP. She began her climate
Hi, I'm doing
journey.
well. So you can just put
Ah,
your Yes, I'm here. I'm from somewhere.
Okay, okay, Ray. Now I read your profile. So Ray began her climate journey advocating for sustainable business practice before finding her passion in organizing mass-oriented campaigns and educational discussions. Her advocacy centers on collective youth action for a people and planet-centered future. Thank you, Ray. Thank you for being a speaker here. For the next panelist is Julia Bordin. I'd like to share that Julia is unable to join with us due to unexpected circumstances, but uh, she has kindly prepared a video message for us, so we can watch it together later. So Gila has accumulated extensive experience spanning over 8 years in policymaking, advocacy, and stakeholder engagement, with a strong focus on human rights and strategic communication. Gila's academic background focuses on political science, international relations, and human rights. Throughout her career, she managed many projects, totaling over 20, funded by the European Union. This demonstrates her proficiency in project implementation and delivery, highlighting her dedication to effective execution. So thank you for all the panelists and keynote speaker for being with us today. So before we move into our panel discussion, let's first hear from our keynote speaker, Dr. Teguh Santosa. The Zoom is yours.
Yeah. Thank you,
Okay,
Lucia.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I think it is a huge task for me now to share my view on the possibility of third world war. Yeah, I myself, I have to confess at the beginning that I don't think that we will face a catastrophic war like we ever have in the past. Yeah. Even though we've seen some atrocities quite recently, like the things that happened in between of let's say Russia, Ukraine, yeah, and Iran and Israel and Pakistan and India a couple months, couple weeks, even the Russia and Ukraine still ongoing. Yeah, but look, I will try to discuss this, and I think that this is a topic that has been a hot topic in recent days and has involved many groups. Yeah, discussion on this topic are not only dominated by policymakers, academics, the media, and the business community, but also by the general public who have widespread access to information in this era of disruption. The scenario that has been discussed, both credible prediction as well as wild speculation. Nevertheless, from a historical perspective, yeah, and I believe this is not an overstatement, things like tension, conflict, and war on various scales are the primary factors shaping today's world order. Also, the boundaries between countries are the product of a long series of conflicts. The Treaty of Westphalia in 1648, for example, it was a treaty to end 3 decades of war in Europe at the time, has been an inspiration in defining the modern state entity. What we call a state ultimately emerged within a society or nation as a necessity condition, even though societies and communities existed and inhabited a territory first. So I mean that nation come first and state come follow after that. Not only that, our identity, our way of life, and the beliefs that we have today actually also primarily products of this long process in the past. And when we discuss the contemporary world order, it actually broadly emerged from the end of the Second World War in 1945, followed by the decade of decolonization, that lasted until around 1955. Even though after the fall of Soviet Union, we also have, let's say, new states, yeah, like the former Soviet Union state and also former Yugoslavian state in Balkans. So the new state that emerged after Second World War were the legacy of the preceding colonial system, which influenced various aspects of life, not only political and economic, but also social and cultural aspect. National borders as artificial borders of the colonialism, which may separate or unite communities, have become sources of conflict in the present era. To understand the topic we are discussing today, I believe it is also necessary for us to review the impact of colonialism in creating new identities, new values, and also new cultures in colonized country. This includes the introduction of new methods and technology for processing and managing natural resources. On the other hand, what is also happening, I think, at the same time is the fading or even disappearance of what is believed to be indigenous identity and culture. Exploration carried out to serve the interests of the colonial state may very well turn into exploitation of natural and human resources, detrimental to local communities and the natural environment they inhabit. And also, colonialism creates social inequality between the colonial class and local communities, and this triggers conflict and resistance that cannot be ignored. In many cases, as we have seen, this has become a new sources for the birth of grassroots resistance movement. And I understand that the concern of the possibility of the Third World War, which have been widely discussed recently, are well founded. In recent years, we have witnessed armed conflict on a very scary scale in many places. Yeah, I will note some of those. For example, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which began in February 2022, is still ongoing. And our collective memory records that in 2014, Russia had previously invaded Crimea. The war between the two countries appears to be based on the classic claims developed by each of the warring countries. Russia often claims its presence in both regions, Donbas and Crimea, was the request of the Russian minority in Ukraine, who were being persecuted by the majority. And we also know that Russia always used the same excuse when it invaded Georgia in 2008. And at the same time for Russia, the invasion was a preventive strike and a manifestation of Russia's objection to Ukraine's desire to join NATO and the deployment of NATO troops near the border. However, the most logical justification is that the conflict occurred due to the struggle of natural resources and strategic or geopolitical position. In May this year, we also witnessed exchanges of attacks between Pakistan and India in the border in Kashmir. We all know that Kashmir is a fertile land and strategically important for India, Pakistan, and China. Therefore, these three countries divided the region into three parts and designated Kashmir as a kind of buffer zone. Then in June, also this year, Israel attacked Iran. For Israel, its sudden attacks was a preventive strike to cripple Iran's weapons capacity, which Israel believed would be used against Israel, I mean. Iran, of course, did not remain silent. Its retaliatory action crippled Israel air defenses, which had been believed to be untouchable by even the most sophisticated weaponry. Israel's public perception and opinion of the conflict with Iran were also revised after Israeli experienced the fear and discomfort of living in refugee camp. And yet, many Israelis who fled to seek refuge in other countries face rejection by the society in their destination. In July, is only last month, Thailand and Cambodia, our good neighbors, also engaged in a war over territory containing a Hindu temple built around 11th and 12th centuries. Both Thailand and Cambodia possess documents proving the disputed territory belonged to them. The week-long war was ended through negotiation in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, using the ASEAN platform. The two superpowers, the United States and China, are also involved in these peace talks, indicating that the conflicts in Thailand and Cambodia are crucial for both the US and China to maintain their interests in the region. Not only in the recent conflict between Thailand and Cambodia, I think in the class of interest between the US and China has also left its marks in many conflict areas, including the conflicts I mentioned earlier. We certainly cannot ignore the genocide committed by Israel in Gaza and the Israeli occupation of Palestine in general when discussing global conflict and tension. The devastation of Gaza is truly unimaginable if we see the pictures, if we see the report from journalists covering from the destroyed area. We are currently witnessing a shift in the international community's stance on the issue of Israel's occupation of Palestine. France and United Kingdom to European countries that are permanent members of the UN Security Council have expressed support for two-state solution and are pressing Israel to end its atrocities in Palestine. The international community is now waiting a change in the United States stance so that it can adopt a permanent solution and begin the recovery of Palestine and transform the Israeli-Palestinian relationship into a positive and constructive one. We also cannot ignore the tension between China and Taiwan, which has a collective consciousness of being a distinct and separate political entity from China. Similarly, we cannot ignore the tension between North and South Korea. North Korea has offered a kind of two-state solution to end the tension on the Korean Peninsula. However, South Korea has so far shown no sign of being willing to accept this peace proposal. The above are narratives of conflict and tension that have surfaced and are frequently discussed by the global community today. Beyond that, there are still many other conflicts and tension occurring on Earth. And in this era of disruption, where post-truth has become new truth, any narrative that allows tension and conflict to arise has equal space and opportunity to emerge. I define post-truth as a situation where belief, not fact, determines truth. In this era, we can find any truths, we can find many truths, and yet many of which negate each other. So, dear friend, I define peace as the period between two wars, which can last for a long or short time depending on the strength of the warring parties. If the warring parties are relatively equal in strength, the peace can be expected to last for a relatively long time. However, if the strength between the warring parties is unequal, it is highly likely that peace will not last long because the powerful party will conquer the powerless party. This aligns with the quote from Thucydides that the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. In that context, I want simply say this. Without having to wait for the Third World War, whatever form it takes, every society, community, nation, or country must rethink and redesign how they view and develop themselves to gain the relative strength to enable them to survive. In this narrative, food sovereignty and energy sovereignty are crucial to be mainstream. The modes of living and production of local communities must be forged to meet the needs of the community. I'm not calling for us to build an autarky style of society. However, in this digital age, we are inevitably connected to one another. This means we will need each other. What I want to remind all of us is that we must have the patience to build a system that enables the elimination of extreme dependency or the absence of dependency. I hope the discussion this afternoon will broaden our horizon and guide us in real action toward building sovereignty. I thank you, Lucia, and all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Teguh Santosa. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for telling us for the story of the conflict of history from the since colonialism and the what happening now in Cambodia, Thailand, and all the globally countries. So thank you so much for the inspiring us for the back to the history of colonialism. Thank you so much, Sir Teguh Santosa. Now, friends, I now we will open Q&A. Friends, you can write your question in the chat box or turn on your audio. No question, friends? Hello, everyone. Okay, no question?
Okay.
Okay, friends, you can still raise your question later after the panel discussion. So now we move into the core of our program, to the panel discussion. So Beverly Longit still with us?
Yes,
Ray?
yes,
Okay.
Lucia, I'm here.
Okay. Before we start our panel discussion, first I would like to play the video from Gula Gordon so we can watch it together. So POV team, please play the video.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to the Power of Voice community and International Youth Training Center Chiang Mai, Thailand, for inviting me to this meaningful conversation. I'm very sorry to not be able to join you live today, but I'm sure this will not prevent us to continue in our shared path. I speak today on behalf of Pax Christi International, a global Catholic peace movement committed to justice, active nonviolence, and care for our common home. Today, we witness a form of structural violence over food, land, and the right to life, often hidden from the eyes of those who unknowingly benefit from it. This violence is not only environmental or economic, it is profoundly moral and spiritual. It manifests in the displacement of communities, the degradation of ecosystems, and the erasure of indigenous lifeways. It wounds both creation and humanity. In Latin America, we have seen extractive industries trespass on indigenous territories, criminalizing defenders who speak for the land. In Africa, local farmers are losing access to ancestral lands as large agribusiness projects expand. And in Asia Pacific, we witness communities continue to challenge systems that separate them from their traditional food sources and ecological knowledge. At Pax Christi International, our faith leads us to understand that these struggles are not isolated. They are connected by a logic that values profit over people and control over communion. As Pope Francis reminded us in Fratelli Tutti, peace requires more than the absence of war. It demands the disarmament of greed, indifference, and systems of exploitation. This is why food sovereignty and land rights are not only policy matters, they are spiritual imperatives. They touch on how we understand dignity, relationship, and our vocation to be caretakers of creation. Amidst this, we find hope in communities who respond with resilience and nonviolent creativity. And we get to the understanding that building just food systems requires collaborative action, rooted in the call to protect life and care for creation. We are called to support policies that honor the sacredness of land, uphold the rights of indigenous people, and prioritize agroecology, education, and the resilience of local communities over exploitation and profit. At the heart of this work is intergenerational cooperation. Young people bring prophetic insights, moral clarity, and a deep sense of global responsibility, while elders offer discernment, memory, and spiritual depth. Together, they form a living witness to a peace that is social, ecological, and rooted in justice. As Pax Christi International, we are also committed to ensuring that the voices of these communities, often excluded from decision-making, are brought to the heart of international institutions. Whether through engagement with the United Nations, the Committee on World Food Security, or advocacy at COP summits, we work to amplify the lived experience of indigenous people, youth, and grassroots movements, not only to be heard, but to be actively included and influence the decision-making process. Their wisdom and resilience must shape the global response to ecological injustice. Today, we take the opportunity of this webinar to remember that this silent violence is not inevitable. Through solidarity, dialogue, and sustained advocacy, we can reclaim food and land as foundation for peace, dignity, and shared flourishing. Our shared efforts need to sow seeds of resilience and hope, and help cultivate a world where food is not a weapon, but a gift of life, shared in dignity and peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gila, for sharing such a heartfelt and powerful message. So your words remind us of deep connection between peace, justice, and the right to food and land, and give us clarity and inspiration. Thank you, Gila. So I see there is a question to the Pak Teguh, Sir Teguh. So friends in Indonesia, we call Sir as a Pak. So Pak Teguh means Sir Teguh. Maybe we can continue, yeah, Pak Teguh, yeah, with the question chat box. Is it okay? Okay. From
Okay,
Budi,
now.
yeah, from Budi Bronto Santoso.
Hmm.
Pak Teguh, the line of wearing situation, do you think it will be expanded to the other regions? I see the disputes majority have risen from the long historical context which likely be clustered to the wearing regions. Thanks, Pak. Maybe Pak Teguh can answer now.
Yeah, so if you are looking at the today's situation, we are facing a new situation, with the rivalry between US and China. I don't want to say that we will have another catastrophe like what we have in the history, like like direct contact between fascism against socialism and capitalism countries, in Second World War. But I think now the tension is more economical in a sense, where uh, China, for example, they would like to influence and they would like to control natural resources in many regions. So
Yeah.
if we and at the same time, US also would like to maintain their presence in many regions, and of course including in our region in ASEAN, for example, in the Spratly Islands. And I think our friend from the Philippines, they really knows how they have to fight against China in the waters, in the Philippine Sea. Uh, yeah, but yeah, I don't think that again. I don't think that this will erupt as a direct conflict, catastrophic one. But of course, in some places we will see some exchanging of bullet, of rudals, of missiles, but it will not be like what like many movie or many reels try to show us, like catastrophic, like atomic bomb in here and there. So, because like I said, it is a dilemma. If you are not strong enough, then someone else will punish you. So you have to leverage your power, otherwise, because this is what we call as a deterrence factors, so if you are weak, then you will be a sitting duck, and then you will be punished by the stronger one. So you have to control them. It can be by yourself, it can be by your friends, it can be by your blog.
So it depends on Pak ya. So uh, are you finished, Pak Teguh?
Yeah.
Okay. I still have following question from Pak Budi Bronto Santoso. Second question is about the operational definition of the food and energy resilience for preparing the worst scenario in Indonesia context. Thanks again, Pak.
Yeah, so it is like this. I mean, when I was a little bit younger, a couple years ago, a
Yeah.
little bit younger. I actually, I was born in Medan too, so I'm also from Medan. During that period, we studied that Indonesia, for example, we are not 100% depend on rice, because in many regions, in many locality, in many village, like jagung, for example, or corn,
Corn.
it was acknowledged as one of our main source of food. Yeah. And also sagu. I don't know what it is in English, sagu. So people will say that people in Ambon, in Maluku, in northern Maluku now, they also eat sagu, not rice. And then in Papua, they also have their own main source of food. But I don't know why suddenly then we start to eat rice everywhere. We start to eat rice. So when I mention about the uh, food and energy resilience, this is what I mean by having diversity in food sources, yeah, and also in energy sources. Uh, for example, like this, we are known for our palm oil. For example, palm oil. China and India are two countries who imported huge numbers of palm oil from CPO from Indonesia, but they didn't use it for cooking oil. They use it for other stuff. They make it biofuel. They make it another product like medical, like soap, like other things. Yeah, uh, because for them, cooking oil from CPO is not that healthy. Yeah, and they develop another kind of cooking oil, yeah, from sunflowers, from what soy and so on. Yeah, so I mean, I think we also can use our huge area of palm oil to make it as a source of energy. Yeah, if we are having problem now with our oil lifting, because our oil lifting now is around 600,000 barrels per day, or even maybe 400, some says. Meanwhile, what we need is 1.5 million barrels per day. So if we are lacking of that, so we can also try to diversifies our oil sources. So this is what I mean by energy resilience to get energy sovereignty. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully it's answer. It's enough, Pak Budi Bronto Santoso, ya. Yes, we still have some work to transform our food and energy resilience. So, question from Hanifa Jova: what is the responsible of international communities, including individuals and government institution, to addressing the oppressor and dismantle the apartheid politics in Palestine? Thus, the boycott from BDS movement can be effective tools of collaborative action agenda to protect the local, preserve moral, and resist the economic powers that falling or profiting from the systematic injustice at the same time. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting question.
Yeah. I mean, Israel and Palestine, I mean, the conflict has been there since thousands of years. Yeah. But I think we have to solve. I mean like this. Yeah. What we've seen recently when France and United Kingdom start changing their decision regarding to the conflict in Palestine after they received so many input, including from Indonesia, yeah, especially when President Macron was in Jakarta, and then when President Prabowo was in France. The diplomats from the two countries, we exchange opinion and we exchange information about what really happened in Palestine, and then they finally agreed to change the opinion. And I think from the youth, yeah, from the younger people, the way you use social media, the way you tell the truth, the way you share feelings, yeah, about what happened in Palestine, in Gaza, I think it will also helps the way policymakers, the way politicians in Western countries to see the problem, and I think that also help us. So then they change their mind, their opinion. So this is what we have now, and like I said before in my speech, that nowadays we are waiting for United States to change their opinion, their stance. So if only they change, then we will have 5 permanent members of UN Security Council in the same tone to defend two-state solution. Yeah, but this is also one of the tricky situation. Yeah, if we want to de-radicalize Israel, at the same time you also have to de-radicalize Palestine side. So it always takes to think. It always take to for tangos. Yeah, you cannot dance by yourself. Yeah, if you want to do tango, you cannot claps by one hand. So if one party they have to reduce their atrocity, the other side also need to reduce their atrocity, and then by that situation, then we will continue to build, to construct a positive situation between of Israel and Palestine.
Wow. And also now still happen Pak Teguh, no viral, no justice. So we play in the social media now. Still have another question. Sonali Kerketa in India, from India. Question for Sir Teguh: how can we balance immediate humanitarian food aid with long-term strategy for food sovereignty so that community don't become permanently dependent on external support?
Yeah, for country
Oh,
like India and Indonesia, who has so many land, I think this is not really questions, not really problem at all, because
oh,
we have human powers, we have uh, lands to grow our plants, yeah, our crops. But I think the problem will be for small country, like in the middle of Pacific Ocean, in the middle of Africa, for example, the landlocked one. But I think this is also one of the tricky situation. Nature will create cultures, so we don't have to make a uniform style of everything. Like we have to similarize food in this area with food in other areas, because I think nature already provide everything for people in certain area. So stick to that and develop and utilize that. Then, but of course, if something happen with our neighbors, if our brothers in other region, of course we have to help them, sending reliable amount of supply for them.
okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pak Teguh Santosa. Wow, what a very interactive discussion, yeah. Okay, guys. Okay, friends.
Oh, it's very hard question
Wow,
actually.
yeah. We are still we are still in the opening now. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your wonderful question, and also thank you so much for the Pak Teguh Santosa for your wonderful answer too. Very interactive. So, friends, now we move into the core of our program, interactive panel discussion. So, I will raise a question. So I will first invite one panelist to respond and then give space to other panelists to share their perspective. So for the panelists, we have here Beverly and Ray. Before answering, you are welcome to briefly reintroduce yourself or share any other thoughts. So question one about food and land as the new front lines. maybe I would like to invite Beverly to answer. So the question, um, how do you see food and land becoming a modern front lines of conflict? Could you share your local or regional experience that reflect this silent war over food sovereignty and land rights? Yeah,
Again,
Beverly.
good afternoon or
Yeah,
good evening. I am Beverly Longid. I'm from the Philippines. I'm an Igorot, indigenous peoples from the Cordillera. And I am here in my capacity as a leader of three organizations, Katribu, this is the National Alliance of Indigenous Peoples Organizations in the Philippines, and then of AIPP, the Asia
mm,
Indigenous Peoples Pact, and the International Indigenous Peoples Movement for Self-Determination, or IPMSDL. So maybe before I respond to your question,
yeah,
yes, we are celebrating the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples today,
yeah,
but also closely related to this is 3 days from now will also be the International Humanitarian Law Day, which is an opportunity for us to call for the promotion and respect of international humanitarian law as it applies to civilians or non-combatants. So I think going back to the question
yeah,
to Pak Tegua a while ago on Palestine,
mm,
I think we need to call, no, for the respect of international humanitarian law in what
mm,
is happening in Palestine, especially
yeah,
Gaza, and also to be able to identify clearly who is the oppressor and who is the oppressed. In this case, we should condemn, no, what Israel is doing as far as the killing of children, the bombing of schools and hospitals, and the denial of humanitarian aid. I think at the very, very least, as a matter of faith and as a matter of principle, we should condemn this, especially that yesterday, the Israeli cabinet already approved another invasion of Gaza. No, so in that score, I think we should be able to condemn that. Now, going back to your question on the silent war over food sovereignty and land rights, I think for one, it's not really a silent war. I look at it more as a silenced war. No, it is something that governments and corporations would not like to inform the people, no, or the public. And this can be done through disinformation or misinformation. It can also be done through various repressive tactics like harassment, threats, and of course, war is also a very effective weapon of silencing people, resistance or dissent. So how should we look at food, as you mentioned, food as a what was your term? A frontline of conflict. So
yeah,
I think for indigenous peoples or for those who rely on the land, we look at food and land not as a matter of simply as resources, but rather they are life itself, no? So in for indigenous peoples, the fight for land is also a fight for food. It is also a fight for culture. It is
yeah,
also a fight for survival because our distinct identity emanates from how we relate with the land. And this is why they have become front lines of conflict. No? So because powerful interests, especially corporations, and these corporations are also behind governments,
yeah,
look at our lands as a source of profit, not as a source of life. So that the moment we defend our lands, the moment we defend our farms, our forests, our waters, no,
yeah,
we face militarization, we face harassment and even killings. But I think despite all of this, we continue to persist, no, because without our land, there would be no sovereignty, and without sovereignty, there is no future. Therefore, it is something when we speak also of food and the front line, it is something to defend, it is something to fight for. And for indigenous peoples, I think, I believe, no, at the core of that will be the respect for the right to self-determination of indigenous peoples. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much for your wonderful answer. So, oh, it's very interesting when you said that now we face silence war, right? Because all the threats, all the mutilation, bombs, it it will be silencing people, right? So I agree with you, and for your perspective, so talking about the food sovereignty and land rights, it's one combination with the food, land, so it uh combined in one, right?
Yes.
So thank you so much, wonderful. So now over to Beverly. Could Beverly, do you still with us?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I'm
Beverly
sorry, Ray.
or Ray?
Ray, I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Beverly. Now we move to Ray. Hello,
Hi.
Ray.
Is my audio better right now?
Yeah,
Hi,
yeah, yeah.
everyone. Uh,
Yeah, it's better.
I think, uh,
Uh,
uh, yay, okay. So
Same
just for a quick
question, Ray.
introduction, because I think my internet,
Yeah, yeah.
yes,
Or, yeah, yeah,
just to just quickly also introduce myself because I got cut
yeah.
off earlier. I apologize for my poor internet connection. But I'm Ray Junsai from the Youth Advocates for Climate Action Philippines, or YAKAP. Basically, we're a nationwide alliance of student councils, youth organizations, and individuals in the Philippines who advocate for climate justice. And first of all, thank you for POB for inviting YAKAP to speak for today's talk show. And we're really interested in seeing this topic in terms of like the Third World War and the Silent War, because this has been highly prevalent, not just in the Philippines, but we have been seeing this all over the world as well. Particularly with the youth, I mean, with the question provided earlier and how we see food and land as modern front lines of conflict, is that the youth and even in the communities here in the Philippines, I think Beverly has already shared some, but it has been a prevalent experience, particularly with beyond the actual manifestations of war, which is militarism, is that there is the rise in continuous dissent, particularly with communities who are advocating not just for climate justice, but even particularly with food and land rights. Here in the Philippines, there is a lot of political repression, particularly with communities who are at the front lines of fighting for their land rights. And it's not just the indigenous people or the national minorities, it's also the farmers, it's also the fisher folks who are continuously fighting for their livelihood, for their right to land, for their right for sustainable food. And yet the political climate in the Philippines really they've been using this as a tool to further advance their personal interests on really really silencing the people in fighting for their rights and making sure that these lands does not serve the people, but instead
Oh,
to
okay. Um,
from benefiting from it. I mean, particularly in the this is really being manifested in like communities, like for example here in the Philippines, and those military bases that is Oh, I apologize again.
Yeah.
Am I back? Hello, I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
I got
yeah.
caught up.
Ray, can you
Right.
speak
Okay.
slowly?
I'm so
You're speaking so fast.
sorry.
Ray, can you speak
Oh, I
slowly?
apologize.
Yeah.
You're speaking too fast also. Please speak slowly.
I thought, I think only for me speak fast.
I'm so sorry. But it's my audio all right now? Okay, I think my audio is a bit better, right? So essentially, most of this silent war is already being manifested in communities here in the Philippines, particularly with communities who are fighting for their rights to land and food. And what more is that in the particular with the climate scene that we're experiencing right now, where there are a lot of upcoming typhoons, and even in the Philippines, for last year, we've been hit with 6 typhoons, and just recently we've been hit with like 2 to 3 more typhoons. Is that there really is little to food, and these services that all those reliefs or all those compensations are being used to gain the trust of this big corporations or big politicians, which essentially builds this big debt of gratitude, or what we call utang na loob, which then becomes a weapon for this, whether it may be an aid from like an imperialist country or like a big corporation, use this as a soft power to instill their silent war over us. And I think, particular with that, it's not very visible with the people, but the youth, um, even in the Philippines and even all over the world, has been actively mobilizing, pushing for resistance. I mean, we have seen a lot of movements all across the nation, led and joined by the youth. One that happened in Bangladesh. I mean, even Indonesia, with a lot of their movements happening in the city, and even here in the Philippines, a lot of the youth are really engaged and pushing and fighting for land and food sovereignty, and even the sovereignty of our country, especially with like what has been mentioned earlier, in terms of like with the West Philippine Sea, and even with the presence of the imperialist US in our country. So yes, even with those manifestations, the youth really has been resisting, and it's nice to hopefully get to see more of this resistance, not just in the Philippines but also all over the world.
Yeah. Are you finished, Ray? Okay, okay. Thank you so much, Ray, for your answer. So I think we face the same situation for from Indonesia, from Philippines.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, thank you, Ray, for your perspective. Okay, I really appreciate how you connect to the okay. Is it okay? Your connection? Okay, disappear. Okay. It's a valuable bridge for our understanding from youth movement. So thank you, Ray. So now move to the second question. Back to Beverly. In what way are indigenous community and youth reclaiming food systems through resistance, regeneration, and education? How can like faith, how can media and cultural narrative strengthen this movement for ecological justice and sovereignty. Please, Beverly.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lucia. I think for one, no, we really have to start with collectively and in
Correct.
solidarity protect or defend the remaining ancestral lands, the remaining resources that we have in our countries, in the states where we find ourselves in, and majority or mainly the resources that are really left for development are in indigenous peoples' territories. Therefore, we really have to start with by protecting our ancestral lands from extractive projects, plantations, destructive energy projects, and all of these things. Two, um, together with that, no, because of course, defense or protection of ancestral lands would also involve a certain level of regeneration, especially for lands already that have been destroyed by mining. Now, we have seen efforts in several mining communities in the Philippines to replant native species, native crops, native trees, no? It also involves restoring the forests, and these are done by the communities together with advocates, and to a certain extent involving also the expertise of some what do you call this, botanists, those who are knowledgeable of these plants, no. And two, it will also involve to a certain extent, no, reviving traditions into farming, no. That would mean doing away with heavy industrial commercial inputs of fertilizers and pesticides. So we'll have to do away with that. And there are many communities, not only in the Cordillera, but also, in Malaysia, even Indonesia, in Thailand, are now trying to not only popularize, no, but because much of these traditional practices have been destroyed because of the influx of corporate way of agriculture. So much of this really will be reviving, no. And then I think where does the youth come in? I think that's where we come in with what we call intergenerational learning, or passing on passing on the information, no, in relation to this. And much of the youth, no, they can really be able uh to help. So, and then our youth, no, are not just also simply learning, but I think when they also go to the communities, they can also be teachers. No, they can also share something to the community in terms of probably the use of new technology. Like many of us are involved, many indigenous communities from Asia, Africa, and Latin America are involved in mapping our territories, and that involves a certain level of technical knowledge and the use of equipment. So the youth can be part of that. It can also be, how can the youth also help us in relation to amplifying the stories, the struggles, the aspirations, and the alternatives of indigenous people. So these are shared to others who have not been, for one reason or the other, are not familiar with the situation of indigenous peoples. And I would like to connect my answer to the question of Hanifa in relation to uh, uh, how do we look at indigenous youth who probably grew up or were born outside of their communities, outside of the indigenous territories, and how do we look at the use of modern technology, and I would assume probably in relation to energy and mining. Um, the Katribu, and I think many also of the indigenous youth in Asia, like the Asia Young Indigenous Peoples Network and the Asia Indigenous Youth Platform, have this what do you call this campaign, which they call Back to the Villages campaign. So they use the local term, no, back to Ili, back to the kampong, which is basically a learning campaign for indigenous youth who grew up in the city, not in the community, and also for advocates who are youth, no, or who are not indigenous, to be able to have an exposure and integration in the community. So it's a learning campaign, no. So this is something that we are actively doing in here, like IPM-SDL. We also have this campaign of cultural revival. It involves teaching our indigenous youth in the cities at the least, no, how to play our musical instruments, how to do our dances, and to a certain extent, simple languages, no, simple communication. And lastly, um, I think the use of technology, of course, definitely indigenous peoples, we need computers, we need laptops, we need electricity, because that will also lighten up the load of the work in the community, instead of pounding rice manually. We have the mill that will, do that in a matter of minutes, instead of doing it for a long time. Definitely, we are not anti-development, but I think we need to define what kind of development we have, and development for whom. It should be a development that would include indigenous peoples, and it should be a development that will also include or benefit majority of the people. Our problem now is government uses the rhetoric of development and for national interest or for the majority. But in truth and in fact, our countries do not benefit from all of these mining and energy projects, and definitely not the majority people. You still pay electricity; it's too expensive. And when the environment gets destroyed, it's not only indigenous peoples who gets affected; it's everybody. So that's why we need to improve or have a change of mindset or even life ways. And this is where indigenous principles and values come in. The value of collective good, the value of common good, being more collective rather than individualistic, more looking into the future, more than looking at things in a very materialistic way with regards to the use of land and resources. So I think I've said enough.
Wow. Wow, wonderful. It's very insightful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Beverly, for your it's really impactful, and I really like got many learning to to copy this so many way to do. So again, thank you, Beverly. Your all the example of resistance and regeneration showed the power of root of the power of culture from indigenous people and community led action. So I write down so many things from your side. So thank you so much from all the inspiring way to keep on going on this. So thank you again, Beverly. Wonderful. So now move to Ray. How do you see these strategies are working in your own work and across youth network you're part of? Please, Ray.
Hello. So yes, I agree with everything that Beverly has shared. I mean, particular with coming from the group of the youth, that it's very important for us that we bring our roots or the demands from the communities, whether that may be from the indigenous group or the local communities most vulnerable to typhoons or destructive projects, and maximize our skills, our youth, to bring those campaigns to spaces that are not typically reached. I mean, it has already been shared by Tegu and even Beverly that the youth has this special capacity of like not only maximizing social media or online platforms for campaign and really building resistance, but also the mental and physical energy of the youth to really um, come join together, build collective action towards a specific goal, and through strengthening the capacity of the youth, whether that may be through, to which I agree with what Beverly said earlier, into like skill sharing or passing of skills from our elders to the youth now, and even really just capacitating our youth to really mobilize and come together and really push for a youth-led collective action can do wonders in terms of really pushing resistance against this destructive projects, this big nations pushing for these wars. And I think for us, particularly with the youth, and even with the AKAP, what we wanted to bring into this space is really how we can tap into our creativeness and bring these demands, for example, defending ancestral land or um, just an equitable transition creatively. So it's not just so that we're not just blatantly saying that, oh, okay, this project is bad or this destructive project should be taken down, but really we we look for creative ways to reach different kinds of people so that not only is this information available for, well, particularly with the communities, but we get to also mobilize even those who are in universities or those who are in factories or in even other sectors of society to be interconnected into this one issue, which is on fighting for our rights for land and food. And I think with the collective action that we have been seeing, not just in the Philippines, but even all over the world. For example, with what's happening in Palestine or in Gaza, wherein a lot of the youth there are really deprived of food or even are facing a lot of really unfortunate human right violations, but we see the resistance, right? We see their the how they call this, the youthfulness in them to really persevere and come together to fight against this big oppressors, whether that may be Israel or US. And I think particularly with the youth who has the capacity to really maximize media and culture into bringing this campaigns, into bringing these issues to audiences who are not typically provided with this kind of information is one of like the biggest thing that we could help. And then of course, it's also a part of really connecting with other sectors of society, making sure that it's not just the youth that are working towards building a future that is pro people and pro planet, but we are also working with the fisher folks, we are working with the farmers, we are working with the women, with the LGBTQIA plus community, with the indigenous groups. We're basically um, coming together, pushing for collective action in building a society or in building a future for generations to come, wherein they get to enjoy a society that is essentially free of oppression. They have adequate right for land and food, and particularly that are pro people and pro planet. And I think we have been seeing a lot of manifestation of this strong youth movement in different parts of the world, and it will be great to really see it be strengthened more and see big solidarity between different nations, different groups, different countries to really push forward our rights, not just for land, not just for food, but really for a um, better society for even for the generations to come. So, yeah.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Ray. Your emphasis on a collective action and in a creative way, and yeah, and to be keep going on a campaign, and I really agree that collaborative is a key also. So thank you so much for your movement also, your insight. That's really wonderful. So for the second question, I think I have a conclusion that from Beverly, so many so many examples we have, like uh, Beverly and Ray agree that collective way is key also. So, and then Beverly ate some example by reviving tradition into about the tradition into farming, and then passing on, and then amplifying the stories. And back to the village campaign. That's really interesting, Beverly here. So, and then about the musical instrument into a simple communication, and then improve or change mindset. So thank you for Beverly and Ray for the second question. It's really powerful example to uh, this is a powerful strategy. So we can also from we are from Indonesia can apply that way. So next question, the final question. It's maybe can I turn to Ray first? The question is what concrete action or what concrete action that are needed at the local, at the national or international level to resist uh, activism, uphold the right to live, and build intergenerational and cross-border solidarity through food justice movements. Please, Ray.
Yes, hello. So, yeah, as I have been mentioning earlier, it's really important that we put emphasis in strengthening local and international people's movement, particularly with the youth. It's really crucial for us to really um, arouse the youth, different kinds of youth. I mean, youth is really in every sectors of society. So for us, it's really important for us to arouse, organize, and mobilize youth all over the world to come together and resist this extractive projects, this big nations pushing for war, essentially this imperialist countries who are really exploiting other smaller nations. And for us, our concrete action really relies on strong organizing. Here in the Philippines, we do a lot of arouse, organize, and mobilizing. We're in essentially to really build your movement from the ground up or with the communities and with the youth. First, we have to arouse the people, inform them of the issues, whether that may be reclamation projects or maybe mining, destructive mining projects, quarrying projects in areas in the Philippines, human right violations. So we have to find for creative ways to arouse the people to be interested in the issues. One that Yakap does is that we like to do things creatively. So we do exhibits, we do fashion shows, but this can also already be seen in as simple as educational discussions or conversation with friends, conversation with families. And I think that's an important first step in um, strengthening our alliances, is that the people know what they are fighting for. And then, of course, it's also important that our youth are organized in a sense that they are not working individually, but rather they are collectively coming up with ways on how we can resist against these big projects, whether it may be through protest actions or providing legal documents. It's important that we do those things collectively because there really are strength in numbers. And if you take in consideration the big number of population of the youth all over the world, imagine how much we can do if we are all all of those are organized into this towards food and climate justice. And then, of course, after arousing and organizing, it's really important that we also mobilize our youth, mobilize them in a way that they and themselves see the need to take action in resolving these issues, in resisting these different projects, that they themselves find an initiative within themselves to really come up with projects or encourage their friends to join the movement, because it is only through the continuous mobilization of the youth along with the other sectors of society that we really see the power of resistance. I mean, historically in the Philippines, this has been proven with the many movements that has been done, many many politicians being overthrown, or like really a lot of movements that we see great success. And so I think it's important that we take those lessons from the historical movement that has been made. I mean, I'm familiar with what's happening in the Philippines, but I'm sure in other regions as well that historically resistance can only be done through collective action, through the people's movement, and with a common enemy as big as destructive projects, multinational corporations, imperialist countries. It is crucial for us to build our alliances and build our solidarity based on the people's movement, based on the communities who are most affected and those who will definitely benefit the most um, on the future that we are building essentially. So particularly in the Philippines with the youth, we really put emphasis in arousing, organizing, and mobilizing our youth so that for future generations to come, for the next set of youth leaders, next set of individuals who will continue the people's movement, is that we don't lose this touch of collective action and really strengthening our alliances for future generations to come.
Okay, thank you so much, Ray. It's really insightful. But I focusing on for the first conversation with family. That's a really nice and unique way. Uh, okay, thank you so much, and thank you for your movement doing until now. So now we move to Beverly. What would you add, especially from the perspective of grassroots organizing and indigenous leadership? Please, Beverly.
Okay, thank you. Maybe one, we will have to agree that the issue of food, the issue of insecurity, of hunger, of famine will not be solved by more extraction, by more militarization, or more empty promises. And it will only be addressed by protecting the lands and territories that still are around feeding the world. It will also involve respecting the land rights, the sovereignty of indigenous peoples, and also by recognizing that the fight for our land is also a fight of everyone's future. Two, I think when we speak also of defending indigenous people's rights, defending indigenous people's lands and territories, this is not a matter of charity. This is not a matter of sympathy, but it is also a matter that we need climate action. It is also a response to the call for justice. And definitely by doing so, by being part of this movement of defending lands and territories, it is part of actions for survival. But because I agree with what Ray said, that the roots of our problems are the same, whether we are in Indonesia, in the Philippines, whether we are indigenous or not, the roots of our oppression are the same, and that is colonialism and imperialism, no? So the greed for profit at the expense of people and planet should stop. So this really needs solidarity, and solidarity that goes beyond borders, solidarity that goes beyond words. So it will mean also among indigenous peoples being able to attain a certain level of unity, and of course solidarity between indigenous peoples and the other oppressed peoples of the world. So what concrete actions can we do? So this one, maybe as the youth, you can try to organize a youth or elders convening or dialogue. I mean, what can the elders teach the youth, and what can the youth teach the elders? Or maybe what can we learn from each other? I think that's a better way of saying it instead of teaching. Two, many really of the issues also that confront indigenous peoples comes from this intensifying criminalization because of the resistance, because of the dissent. And this is not only in the Philippines. So we also have to look on how can we support legal aid or legal pushbacks of indigenous peoples, individual leaders, and as communities, no? Three, I think I agree there should still be a level of direct action or mobilizations in the form of protests. This can be rallies, pickets, and it's not necessarily confined in the countries where we find ourselves in. Because there are certain global events that also needs a strong presence of grassroots sectors and communities and organizations, like the upcoming conference of parties with regards to climate change. I think we should have a very strong presence there, especially that it's happening in Brazil, in Belém, a part of the indigenous people's territories. Fourth recommendation for action will be how do we shape policies that will be positively used by indigenous peoples or by the youth or any defenders of people's rights, no? So that would mean really trying to influence policies at local, national, and global levels, including the United Nations. So maybe we can still study how we are able to engage these human rights mechanisms to be able to get a certain leverage, no, from these institutions. But we can only do this, no, we can only be very successful in these concrete actions or those that I have laid down if we also have strong organizations. So I agree with what Ray said, that we need to arouse, organize communities and our organizations. So that's a challenge for the youth on how you are able to organize yourselves and be able to be more political, spiritual at the same time, but also in solidarity, and maybe to be, how do you say this, with much creativity, being brave, yet being safe, being able to use the strength, the stamina, the adventurism of the youth. I mean, I leave that to you. And maybe my last point is that we know that when we defend land, again, I will reiterate, we also defend life itself. And in this fight for land, in this fight for life, in this fight for justice, in this fight for freedom, no one is too young. And no one also is too old to take a stand. So in that score, I end my sharing. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Beverly. Again, you always have give us wonderful insight, wonderful thoughts. Thank you. Thank you so much. So that is the last question. So thank you to all our panelists, Ray and Beverly, for your generous sharing, for your wonderful wisdom, wonderful experience, and hope this talk show, this discussion, this conversation remind us that food is more than nourishment. It is a matter of justice, sovereignty, and collective survival. So again, thank you so much, Beverly and Ray. So now we ask to audience, if you have question, you can turn on your audio or write your question in the chat box. Question from Hanifa already answered by Beverly, right? So Thank you again, Hanifa, for the question. Second question. So there is no question from audience, friends. So yeah, because there's no question. So now, before we close, I would like to ask Titi, are you with us, Titi? Hello, Titi.
Yeah, hi, sorry.
Okay, okay. Now we are honored to have Miss Titi Gale, manager of the International Youth Training Center, AWTC Chiang Mai, Thailand, to share her reflection as closing remarks. So, Titi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lucia. Thank you for the introduction. And yeah, hello once again to everybody. I am Titi and I'm based here in IYTC in Chiang Mai, Thailand, on Karen land. So we are here in the Karen indigenous community of Thailand, but I am myself an indigenous youth from Nepal. Celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day today and hearing all your reflections and the beautiful summary that was Beverly presented at the end, stressing more on how land is life. I do not have anything left to add on to all those because everything has been discussed and said. However, I would like to take this time and take this space on this Indigenous Peoples Day as we remember uh, the past of our people and also reflect on the present and also consider the intergenerational heritage passing, legacy passing of our people. So on this Indigenous Peoples Day, we remember that wars and conflict have never been just about borders. They have been about our lands, the land which is also our mother and our culture and even the seeds we plant. We remember all those. And this year's theme, Indigenous Peoples and AI, Defending Rights, Shaping Future, it reminds us that the struggles we have faced for generations now extend into a digital era, which was not even thought about decades ago. But now it has become the lived reality of our time, our people, and the generation after us. Just as we defend our territories and food system from exploitation, we must also protect our knowledge, our language, and our stories in the age of artificial intelligence. Because all these factors, our indigenous wisdom, our indigenous knowledge, language, our folklores, all these make us who we are. This is all of us. This is our identity. And food sovereignty is our right to grow, harvest, and share food in ways that honor our ancestors and protect our future and maintain the intergenerational harmony, intergenerational legacy that we carry. In times of conflict, whether on battlefields, in policy rooms, or now in time of technology in algorithms, these are the first to be taken, the food sovereignty. Yet we are still here, and our seeds are still sown. Our land still nurtures us, it cares for us. Our language is still spoken, and our songs are still sung. And that is the indigenous resistance that we live by. And the communities around us help us nurture and care as well. Our survival is built on solidarity and collective action, standing together among communities, across communities and borders to defend what cannot be replaced. So true peace is not the absence of war, it's the presence of justice, respect, and indigenous leadership from the fields to the digital frontiers. With that being said, I would like to take this time to also thank all of our speakers. Thank you for coming to our space and taking your precious time and of course your expertise to share with us your wisdom and your courage in advocacy for the indigenous rights for the collective good. Indigenous rights is not just about the question or concern of indigenous people in today's age and in time of the digital expansion. It is the concern of everybody. It is the concern of humanity, and it is a concern that uh, is very much rooted in human dignity. So may we live here united in protecting our lands, waters, seeds, and our stories more amplified and magnified for others to see, others to hear, and also our culture to be shared, but not colonized, and our sovereignty. Because when indigenous people thrive, the whole world is nourished. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Lucia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Titi, for the heartfelt closing remarks. So, again, everyone, thanks to our keynote speaker and all the panelists and all the active, very active participants. Thank you so much. And thank you to the entire POV community, volunteer team, IWTC, and MCS team. Thank you so much. See you in our next reflective forum and collaborative action space. So maybe can we take a group photo again? Everyone, thank you so much for still with us until now for the first. Friends, please turn on your camera so we can see your beautiful place, your handsome. Okay. Nicola, Paul. Hello, Paul. Hello, Paul. I miss you. Oh, Nicola, Rahel, Clara, Carissa, Stephanie. Just a moment, please. Ah, Paul cannot open camera on the phone. Oh, okay, it's okay. Thank you for response. Okay, we will take a group photo. So, Una, can you take a screenshot? Okay. So, ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Beverly.
Have
Thank
a
you
good
very much,
evening, everyone. Bye.
Titi.
See
Thank
you.
you so much. See you. Bye-bye.